In our previous session, we looked at how planners use Steven platform and how you can market your property to those planners. In today's third session, we will focus on how to efficiently manage the leads. Any type of management would be aligned with efficient processes. Today's class will be about how to make Cvent a more efficient process for your business and for your team. In order to ensure that you're fully educated on effectively managing the leads, I'll first describe the role and permissions of venue administrators so you can determine who at your venue is the best fit to take on this responsibility. I will then review the actions of the lead catchers versus the users so you can become more familiar with their responsibilities and capabilities. Next, I'm going to review a number of features that will enhance the management of leads to ensure that no business is ever left on the table. And lastly, I'll review some common RFP actions so that you can become more familiar with the workflow and how your business and planners are affected when you make a decision. Before we get started, I do want to note that not all the features reviewed in today's session will be available for everyone, as it will vary depending on a number of factors. If you have questions about why things aren't appearing for you, just simply jot them down and we can discuss them after the class. Let's begin with understanding our venue administrator user role first. Having a venue administrator in Cvent is a great way to ensure that all users have the access that they need. Unlike other users, a venue administrator has full access to the account. They can edit the profile, respond to leads, add or delete users, or even change user permissions. This makes the venue administrator accountable for the security of your account. The person with this role should be someone who is active and well-versed in Cvent. There are several advantages to having a venue administrator. First, consider the amount of turnover in the hospitality industry. It's important to keep up on top of who has access to your Cvent account. Having a venue administrator is a great way to ensure that there's someone tasked with removing those users who are no longer working at the property. It's also helpful to have a point person on property who is familiar with using the Cvent system and can educate other members of your team as well. In the same light, the person can also communicate any updates or new release features, as we often use venue administrators as a point of contact for the property. Let's take a look at the venue administrator role in our test account and see what kind of actions can they take.
Let's take a look at the venue administrator role in the product and what actions they can take. We're going to start off by looking at the administration tab of the account, which is located on the top right. Most of you probably spend the majority of your time in the Cvent RFPs tab for profile edits or responses to RFPs, which is right next to the admin tab. However, venue administrators not just has access to this section, but have further access to the administration tab. Now pay particular attention to this section if you already have access to this or you think that you should. Under the admin button, you'll be able to see the users tab and a users sub-tab as well. Now this is where you'll be able to add or delete users, change what a user already has access to, and decide if someone also needs to be a lead catcher. You see in this section your list of users, their username right next to it, their role, meaning what they exactly have access to in Cvent, and whether or not their account is active towards the right. This is certainly a good area to reference if you need a list of your current venue administrators. If you don't have access to this section, I will show you another area in just a moment. Let's start by adding and deleting the users. With the amount of turnover I'm sure you are all familiar with in the hospitality industry, you can see where having someone on the property with this access will be beneficial. If this is neglected, it's possible that former employee can still have access to see all the business coming to your property. To add a user, you can start clicking on the Create User tab on the right. And then you will be prompted to add further information like the username, the user role, email address, so on and so forth. Now let's take a step back and talk about how to remove a user from the account. In order to do that, you can simply hover over this drop down right next to the name of the user and click on the delete button from here. You will then be taken to a confirmation page where you will confirm the delete. Now, once you confirm the delete, you will be taken back to the list of users as you can see. You may have noticed from the drop down that I earlier hovered over on that you have other options as well to manage the user. You can also access the same options by clicking on the user's name. Now, starting at the top, you'll be able to see the first option as changing the password. Again, having someone on the property that can easily or quickly do this will save you from having to contact us from the change. To use this feature, simply click the button and you'll be prompted to enter and confirm the new password for the user. Moving down just a little bit, we have different tabs for the user as well. The first tab is the user information. This will give you some basic information about the person, their name, whether or not they are active, their contact information, and address information. It's the same information that you added on step 1 of creating a user. The second tab is venue visibility, where you'll be able to see any properties that particularly has access to. If we click edit from here on the top, you'll see that there are several actions that can be taken by you. You can remove a property from a user's account by checking off the box that's next to the venue's name, or simply clicking the delete option on the right-hand side. There's an option to delete it on the top as well, on the right. You can also add a venue to the user's account. To add the property, you can simply click on the Add Venue button. It says add chains, brands, or venues, depending on the access that you have. It's also important to note that as a venue administrator, you will only be able to add visibility for a user to properties that you yourself have access to. By the end of this session, you would now be able to add, delete a user, and change their visibility.
Now that we have discussed the role of a venue administrator, let's differentiate between the lead catchers and the users in your Cvent account. We've already talked about the users and who all can log into your Cvent account and how they can be managed by the venue administrator. Now let's switch gears a little bit and discuss how to manage your lead catchers. These are the people who receive email notification about new RFPs for your venue. The key point to remember here is that these two are different functions altogether within Cvent and are managed separately as well. Someone could have a username but not be a lead catcher, or vice versa. Let's jump back into our account to see how we can manage our lead catchers today.
Now, if you're a venue administrator, you'll be able to manage lead catchers right here in the Users tab. To start with, you'll click on the name of the user. And now on the top, you'll be able to notice the venue visibility section. When you click on that tab, you'll have now the option to click on Edit. And then you can turn the lead catcher as yes or no using the toggle button on the right-hand side. Now to further add the lead catchers in bulk to all the properties or take them off of all the properties, you can simply do that by checking the boxes on the left-hand side to each and every venue name. And then from the top right, hovering over to the Actions tab and selecting the option you want, selecting lead catcher to yes or no. Once you make the change that you want, hit the Save button to save the changes on the user settings.
Once you're set up as a lead catcher, you will receive email notifications like the one you see here for each RFP that a planner sends to your venue. The grid in the center of the notification will give you a good snapshot of RFP key details, including the event dates, peak room nights, planner key contacts, and even more. If an NSO was copied on the lead, you will also be able to see that information right here. To respond to the RFP, you can click directly on the link in the email notification that you will get and be taken into your account to create a proposal from there on. Let's move to our third objective now, where we will discuss tips to enhance the lead management process for you. Within your CVEN account, you can purchase the ability to set up escalation or routing rules to have more visibility over your RFPs and what is happening with them. Now, what are routing rules? Instead of having one central lead catcher filter leads and send them along to appropriate sales manager, I could set up a routing rule that will send a lead directly to a sales manager based on the criteria that I select. In the example here, I have different leads going to different managers based on if the RFP is an association, government, and corporate piece of business. The escalation rules work slightly differently. They still use the lead catcher for the initial notification, but will later move the lead to another person based on certain triggers. For example, I could set up a rule as a director of sales to send me an email every time a lead goes unresponded to for 48 hours, or every time an RFP is turned down with our peak need period. Now let's jump into the tool and take a look at some of the features in your CVEN account that will also help with managing the leads.
Let's take a look at the venue overview page and find out what information we can see there. To go to venue overview page, simply click on the venues tab from the top, then on the name of your venue. And this is how the venue overview page would look like. There are several pieces of valuable information here that will be helpful as reference points for you. First, on the upper left-hand side, the venue profile percentage will tell you what areas of profile could use a little improvement. On the right, moving to the proposal defaults, you can see how well you're taking advantage of these time-saving defaults for your response process. The Manage RFPs users box on the bottom left will let you switch between viewing the users and the lead catchers from the drop-down. And finally, the RFP response graph will give you a quick snapshot of your RFP statuses and your response time as well. This is a great spot for you to quickly check on your business and look at a high-level information. Now, an important part of being able to manage your leads is knowing where exactly to find them. The RFP search will help you easily navigate through RFPs in the account. You can use the account search box that's located on the top right of your account. For general searches, if you already know, for example, the RFP name or the code. But for a more advanced search option, what you can do is click on the Manage RFPs tab from the top. And then you have the option to search by a wide variety of criteria by simply clicking on this magnifying glass option that says Search RFPs on the left-hand side. In this screen, you have the option to search all those criteria that you can think of, if perhaps you've forgotten the full RFP name or the code. For example, you can easily search by one of your clients', let's say, last name, and putting in a date of your choice. Once you hit the search button, is when you will be able to find all RFPs that fit this criteria. Now, in our first session, we also touched upon the RFP showcase, if you remember, which is one of the options for the planners to post their RFPs to allow venues to claim them. Let's see where we can check if the RFPs are really available for us. I'm going to start by clicking on the RFP Showcase tab from the top. Now, you'll be wondering, how will you really get RFPs in this section? You will only see RFPs that are qualified for your property. And there are certain criteria that you have to match with the planner's needs in order to be qualified for that lead. Things like you have to be located in the same metropolitan area or city. You need to make sure that you can accommodate the largest meeting space that the planner is asking for, the total meeting space, as well as the peak room nights mentioned. And another condition is that you already did not receive the lead directly from the planner. If you match all these criteria, you'll be able to see the lead right here. Now, let's take a look at this RFP that we have over here. If you just want to look into further details of this RFP, you can click into View RFP Details. Once you do that, you'll be able to notice that there are certain fields over here that are hidden. Now, they will stay hidden until you claim the RFP. You can claim the RFP by clicking on the Create Proposal tab. However, it's important to note that all the key details about the event are included so that you are able to see if you would like to bid on this RFP or not. Once you claim the RFP by clicking on the Create Proposal tab, this will reside in your Manage RFPs tab just like any other RFP, and the response process remains the same. It's also important that you keep in mind that these leads are available on a first-come, first-served basis. The lead will remain open to only the first 5 bidders, and once the planner has closed out the RFP. Hence, it's important that you keep a tab on the Showcase section of your profile. Now, the last area of your account that will serve in assisting your lead flow management is located back in the Manage RFPs tab. So let's click on there once again. Now let's take a quick look at the setup of the Manage RFPs page and then talk about how to most effectively tailor it to your business needs. On the left-hand side, you'll see a set of 9 standard views. Now these are a great way to prioritize your RFPs you are looking for. For example, maybe you want to focus on the business that's coming up due in the next week or so. So you can click on Overdue RFPs, or you just want to look at the unassigned RFPs so far. You can use that view. You can also check off the default box, which means that anytime you come to the Manage RFPs tab, you'll automatically be in that view. In order to do that, simply go to the little arrow with a drop down next to the view, and you'll be able to find the Set as Default View button. The moment you check that, you will be able to set this as your default view. And as and when you click on Manage RFPs, this will be the first view you get to see. You'll also notice that on the left-hand side at the bottom of the list of views, there's an option to add a custom view as well. This is certainly a great way to make your account work best for you. Let's click on it and see how it looks like. In a custom view, you can select certain criteria that you'd like to appear in your own view when you log into your account. Some examples of these fields that you can select are the NSO being copied or not, the name of the planner organization, or for example, you only want to see RFPs that are assigned to you. You can select all those fields. You can also select some advanced filters at the bottom of your page. You will further have option to create a view that is just private to you, so only you can see this, or public, which means all the users in the particular account or venue can see that view. Once you successfully add the view, you will be able to find that view on, again, the left-hand side amongst all other views that we have added. I hope this gave you a little insight on all the things that you can look at to manage your RFPs better, and also to look at your lead in the lead catchers.
We'll now walk through our final objective for this course by showing some common actions that you can take on an RFP. Follow along in your guide as we use these actions to answer specific scenarios that frequently arise when managing and responding to the leads. Some actions may be more familiar than the others.
Now that we are back in the account, I'm going to code certain scenarios that you might face in your day-to-day work and also talk about the corresponding actions that you can take to tackle with them. In order to start working on any of the RFPs, you need to start by clicking on the Manage RFPs tab on the top. This is where you'll find all of the leads. You can also go to the Recent Items tab on the top right if there's an RFP that you've already been working on. Let me select the one that I was recently working on. Now, you will notice that there are certain options on both the top of the RFP as well as on the left-hand side. We will be talking about these functions and options one by one. Now, let's say in a scenario, you just want to make sure that no incoming business is ever missed by you. In that case, a great way to make sure of that is to make use of our assigning feature. The Assign RFP button is right on the top in the middle of the RFP. This will allow you to designate a point person on your team to work with each lead. This can be useful for a team of 20 or a team of 2. Let's click on the Assign RFP button. Now, when I assign a lead from here, I can easily just enter the information of that person. Or in order to just make things easy for me, I can click on these 3 parallel dots on the right-hand side. And this will let me choose from my colleagues that are already existing and have a login with Cvent. Once I select this, I can also type in a message to my colleague. And once you do that, you have an option to save and email an alert to your coworker of the new RFP. Now, let's say in another scenario, you now need to let the planner know that you are working on a lead as soon as it comes in. Going back to the details section, you will notice a Mark in Progress button on the tab. When you mark a lead in progress, the planner is made aware and you are essentially letting them know that you've received the lead and someone is working on it. When I click on it, it's going to give me an option to include a message which will eventually go to the planner. They can then easily see that I have acknowledged this lead when they are reviewing the RFP in their account. Another nice feature of the Mark in Progress application is the ability to track that time. Part of the supplier response timer report can actually tell you the time lapse between when you marked a lead in progress and when you actually submitted your proposal. There could be another scenario wherein you're not being able to accommodate the business at all. I'm sure that has happened to all of the properties here. If you are unable to accommodate an RFP, you can always turn down the business. It's always recommended to first ensure that the planner is not flexible in their dates and that you cannot provide any alternate dates at all before you turn down the lead. Let's click on the Turn Down RFP button on the top. You will then be prompted and required to enter a turn down reason, which is a mandatory field for you. This can help in later identifying the patterns of business in your reports. You can also provide additional comments in the comment box if you would like, which is a great way to maintain your relationship with the planner and potentially receive future business with them. Both the turn down reason and the comments will be visible to the planner's account. Your contact information in this section will pre-populate from username information, and the planners will be notified of your turn down through an email notification. Now, let's say I turned down this business, but later I realized that I can accommodate it. It's really important for you to remember that turning down the RFP is not a permanent action. If you later realize, like me, that you cannot accommodate the business, you can always retract your turn down and bid the RFP. To retract an RFP your colleague previously turned down, simply locate the RFP, just like I can see on my screen, and you'll see the option to retract at the top. let's click on the Retract Turndown RFP button. Once you do this, the RFP goes back into the awaiting proposal status, and you can create a proposal just like you would for any other RFP. Now, do keep in mind that the planner is not automatically notified when you retract a turndown, so they will not know of your offering until you submit a proposal or send them a message in the interim. In order to send them a message or start a messaging channel, you can always go to the Actions tab on the right and then go to the Send Message button. Try to keep this option for those important messages that you want to share with the planner. Now, in another scenario, let's say you cannot accommodate this business, but your sister property can probably do that or might be able to. Another option, if you truly cannot accommodate the business, would be to forward the lead to a sister property or management company if you can. Once you've forwarded an RFP to the another property, they'll be able to respond to that lead just as if they'd received it from a planner. This is actually a great way to cross-sell and work together within your market or organization. As long as the planner has kept the forwarding option on the RFP enabled, simply use the forwarding option in, again, the Actions drop-down to locate the property that you'd like to pass on the business to and include a personalized message over here. Now, what about after the submission? Let's say you have already submitted this RFP, but you want to take certain few actions, or let's say you cannot go ahead and anymore accommodate the business after you've submitted. The next two actions I'm going to talk about are great options for closing out the business and keeping everything cleaned up in your account. Now, in a scenario where you responded to multiple RFPs for same period, and then let's say one of them turned out to be definite, I would certainly recommend for you to go to that proposal and be able to withdraw it. Let me go ahead and access one of the proposals and show you where you can find that option. Once you click on any of the proposals that you want to withdraw, you'll be able to see the Withdraw Proposal button right on the top. While not required, this will actually help you reduce the number of RFPs that you have in the submitted proposal limbo, and also increase your communication or goodwill with the planner. Withdrawing a proposal is a very quick process, but here you'll be required to give a reason for your withdrawal. As you can see here, it's again a required field for you. You can also include a message that you want to be sent to the planner. Another option is to be able to self-award an RFP. Now you would be wondering when exactly you would need this. We've mentioned several times the importance of communicating with the planner. It's our best practice to the planners that they also do the same with you. However, sometimes this requires a little reminder on your part. Occasionally, we hear of a scenario wherein a planner has been awarded a venue already, and the business is outside of CVent that has been awarded, but has still not taken any action in the system. This is where you'll want to use the self-award feature. Clicking the self-award option can change the status in your account, but simply sends an email reminder to the planner to go into the account and take that action. Let's see where we can find that option. When you go to a proposal, under the proposal details, when you find the withdrawal or the resubmit, right below that is a proposal admin section. This is where you will find the self-award RFP button. This is now going to shoot up an email. You can also write a message that you want to include in that email to the planner, and this will help them take an action on their own account, which they missed on. Now, let's also talk about another scenario wherein after you've submitted the proposal, you kind of realize that there was a typo in the proposal, or you wanted to make a change, or you missed out on a detail. In that case, you can go ahead and make your edits. You do not necessarily need to resend this in case. Any changes that you make are automatically reflected in the planner's account. However, if you're changing something more substantial or adding something, let's say like a document, then it's even best practice to resend the RFP and include the message to ensure that the planner notices the change. Let's see how you can do that. You can simply click on the Edit button under the Proposal Details section. Make the changes as and how you want, and this will give you an option to make changes to all of the sections in the proposal. Once you make the change that you desire, you can save that from the top. And after you save that information, it's always a best practice to resubmit, as I just mentioned. You will find the resubmit option right on the top of that RFP now. Now, let's say a planner updated the RFP, changed the dates, or needs more space. Now, this time the planner is updating the RFP, not you. In this case, what will happen usually is that you'll be able to see an alert on the top of the RFP in your account, right somewhere around here. This link will take you to a page that allows you to sync your proposal with the new RFP information and make any changes to your proposal necessary. In this case, it's always recommended again to resend the proposal to the planner, just like we did in the edit case, as well as also let them know that why the most recent version of the property. Now, once you look back on your account, try to kind of implement these actions one by one whenever you can to better manage your RFPs in future.
As a quick recap, we reviewed that the assignment feature can help ensure no lead is ever left behind. We also saw that turned down RFPs can be retracted to then be able to send a bid. Also, forwarding lead when enabled by the planner can allow us to send the RFP to a sister property if we can't fully accommodate the lead. We can also withdraw our proposal if availability or circumstances change at your venue. Another option we have is self-awarding. This can serve as a gentle reminder to planners if they've forgotten to close out a lead promised to you. And lastly, the View Bids report will allow us to see your bid from the planner's perspective. If you're listed on the Speed RFP network or have a Speed RFP button, you may come across certain RFPs that don't require the in-depth proposal through your CVEN account. An example would be if a bride is looking for, let's say, wedding information many years in advance, and your wedding brochure is already created to provide overview information that she is looking for. If this is the case, then send the brochure over using the email and change the status in CVEN by using Track Offline Proposal button so your response rate isn't affected and proposal statuses are also up to date. The RFP status will then change to Submitted Proposal outside of CVEN. I hope everyone found today's class informative and helpful. By using these tips, you should be able to start or expand on making CVEN more efficiently integrated with your lead management process. From knowing how to manage your users and lead catchers to being able to delegate lead flow, efficient processes in CVEN will help your team excel. If you'd like to test out the actions or admin capabilities in your account we reviewed, feel free to access these details via cven.com and then click on the Login option. As a reminder, if you have not logged in, use the Forgot Your Login Information link or contact our 24/5 customer care from our homepage or our login screen. As we wrap up this session, remember to use our CVEN community to access instructional articles or videos, sign up or get your team signed up for the training classes, and even connect with other CVEN users directly. This can be a great tool in case you need a refresher or clarification on anything covered during our sessions. You can access the community by logging into your Cven account and clicking the Cven community link in the top right corner. If you don't happen to have a Cven username, you are still welcome to access these resources via community.cven.com or through a web search in your browser. That wraps up our third session of the lead management tools. The next and final session, increasing the online conversion rates, will take us through the proposal submission process and how to track the RFP performance with reporting.